Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 46th chapter. And just continuing along, right, with the praising of famous men. Now, as we deal with, starting here with Joshua, okay, it says here Jesus, but it's referring to Joshua. That is a Greek version here of it. The son of Nave, which it's like transliterated Greek, right? Because in actuality, Greek would have been the Jesus. But anyway, it says here, we'll call him by his actual name, Joshua, the son of Nave, which is son of Nun, was valiant in the wars and was the successor of Moses in prophecies, because he took over after Moses, to continue leading the children of Israel, who according to his name was made great for the saving of the elect of God. And what is his name? Hawashai, because that was his name originally, Hoshea, and then it became Yahawashai, right? Deliverer. And that's what he did. He helped, as it says, saving of the elect of God and leading us into the promised land, and taking vengeance of the enemies that rose up against them, that he might set Israel in their inheritance, right? That is their land. How great glory gat he when he did lift up his hands and stretched out his sword against the cities, because the Lord, guided him and strengthened him to be able to lead the conquest. And that's in the book of Joshua. Who before him so stood to it? For the Lord himself brought his enemies onto him. Okay, and basically made him a prey and a spoil before us. Did not the sun go back by his means? And was not one day as long as two? Yeah, at the time of Joshua, the Lord held the sun back to where it was the longest day, where one day the sun didn't go down for the span of 2 days. He called upon the Most High when the enemies pressed upon him on every side, and the great Lord heard him. And with hailstones of mighty power, he made the battle to fall violently upon the nations, because the Lord was fighting with us against our enemies. And in the descent of Beth Horon, he destroyed them that resisted, that the nations might know all their strength, because he fought in the sight of the Lord, and he followed the mighty one. In the time of Moses also, he did a work of mercy, right? Still referring to Joshua here. He and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, in that they withstood the congregation and withheld the people from sin and appeased the wicked murmuring, right? Because that was when they gave the good report, right, about the land, and basically said, look, man, this is what the Lord sent us to do. We have the Lord with us. We can take this land. But the other spies, right, they came back with a negative report, trying to weaken the hands of Israel. And of 600,000 people on foot, they too, Joshua and Caleb, were preserved to bring them into the heritage, even onto the land that floweth with milk and honey. What that means is all of that generation, right, of which Joshua and Caleb were a part of, the Lord had them all die in the wilderness within that 40-year span, with the saving of Joshua and Caleb, which were allowed to actually enter into the promised land, crossing the Jordan, going westward into the land, which even Moses wasn't able to go into. Verse 9, the Lord gave strength also unto Caleb, which remained with him unto his old age. So he was strong even unto his old age, so that he entered upon the high places of the land, and his seed obtained it for an heritage, because he, was a faithful spy, right, a faithful witness to the Lord, and he brought back a good report, just like Joshua, that all the children of Israel might see that it is good to follow the Lord. And concerning the judges, every one by name, When you go into the Judges, it's in there, right? But here he doesn't mention everyone here. But Gideon and all the rest of the other judges. It says here, whose heart went not a whoring, right? All once again, verse 11, and concerning the judges, everyone by name, whose heart went not a whoring, meaning that their mind didn't go astray to depart from the Lord, right? Nor departed from the Lord. Let their memory be blessed. Okay, let the memorial of their name be blessed. Let their bones flourish out of their place, and let the name of them that were honored be continued upon their children, right? Let their good name basically continue upon their children. It says here, Samuel the prophet of the Lord, beloved of his Lord. And when it mentions their bones flourishing, it's basically just them may they continue, right? Their at least their influence, their proper influence continue, and this is like well wishing, or blessing, you could say. So it says, Samuel the prophet of the Lord, beloved of his Lord, established a kingdom and anointed princes over his people. All right, and remember that for a period of time you had Israel, when you go to the time of the Judges, where it said that every man did what was right in his own eyes, right? So you had almost like city states, as you could call it, like, it wasn't united into a kingdom yet. But under the reign of Samuel, or under the time of Samuel, judging Israel, obviously they followed him, but eventually the Lord used him to set up a king, right, which Israel asked for, being Saul. And that's when Israel became like an official kingdom, right, under the rule of a king, and anointed princes over his people. By the law of the Lord he judged the congregation, and the Lord had respect unto Jacob, Jacob being another name for Israel. By his faithfulness he was found a true prophet, and by his word he was known to be faithful in vision. You see, so and because Samuel was true, he was honest and truthful, man. He did what was pleasing to the Lord, and he was beloved both of man and God. Okay, it says here, verse 16, he called upon the mighty Lord when his enemies pressed upon him on every side, when he offered the sucking lamb. And this is, this account is in there. I think it's in the book of either First Samuel, it might be First Samuel, where you had the heathens, I think the Philistines or so, basically closing in on Israel. And so Samuel offered a sacrifice, and then the Lord delivered us from them. It says here, and the Lord thundered from heaven, and with a great noise made his voice to be heard. And he destroyed the rulers of the Tyrians, those of Tyre, and all the princes of the Philistines. And before his long sleep, that is before Samuel died, he made protestations in the sight of the Lord and his anointed. I have not taken any man's goods, so much as a shoe, and no man did accuse him, right? So he basically, had it to where before he died, if there's anybody he had faulted or wronged, he said he was there to make it right. Have I taken anything that belongs to anybody? Have I offended anybody? Right? And they said no, right? We have no fault with you. Verse 20, and after his death he prophesied. That is when Saul went to the witch of Endor, and she conjured up Samuel's spirit. Even though he had already died, he still prophesied to Saul, because he showed him, right, as it says, and shewed the king his end. Right? He said that he just, basically explained to Saul that Saul was going to die, and then joined Samuel. It says here, and lifted up his voice from the earth in prophecy, to blot out the wickedness of the people. Okay, and let's take a look at this here. This is let me just pull this up real quick. Yeah, this is Sirach 46. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Sirach 46 and 20. I'm going to read this in the GNTD. It says here, even after he died, he prophesied to King Saul how he would die, how Saul would die. Out of the grave he spoke as a prophet to blot out his people's wickedness. Okay, that's why I mentioned here a true prophet indeed he was. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 46th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.